Today we are going to be talking about solving equations with square roots and exponents. So first we're going to go over part 1, which is more with square roots. And it's nothing completely new, we just got to practice. So when I look at a problem that has a square root in it and just one variable, meaning one x is represented, the first thing you want to do is isolate your root. So I want to get this part all by itself first. So that means I have to get rid of this positive 3. So in order to get rid of my positive 3, I have to subtract 3 from both sides. So now I'll have the square root of 2x minus 3 is going to be equal to 5. And now once you isolate the root, the opposite of taking a square root is squaring it. So I'm going to square this whole side of the equation, and whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to square the other side also. On the left-hand side, the square and the square root cancel each other out, just like adding and subtracting does above. So I'll just have the 2x minus 3 is going to be equal to 25. And then once we get rid of that root, then it's solving like normal. So I'm going to add 3, 2x is equal to 28, divide by 2, and x is going to be equal to 14, and that's going to be my final answer. Right now I want you to pause the video. Yes, pause the video and attempt this problem all by yourself. You should have gotten that x is equal to 6. So first I have to add the 5, and then I can take the squares on both sides and then solve for x. Now this problem is a little different because when I look at this problem, I have x on the left-hand side and an x on the right-hand side. And one thing, when we solve for roots, we're going to have to take the square on both sides of the equation. But when you raise each side of an equation to a power, it's possible to introduce an extraneous solution. So therefore, we're going to have to check our final answers to see which one is true and which one would be false. So when I solve this first, I still want to get my root all by itself. So I'm going to have the square root of x plus 7 is going to be equal to x plus 5. Because I have to add over this 5 to get the root by itself. And just like the previous problems, I want to raise this squared, and then this whole thing becomes squared. Now on the left-hand side, it just reduces to x plus 7, because the square root cancels out with the squared. On the right-hand side, x plus 5 squared would be written like so. I have to expand it now. So now I actually have to FOIL or distribute. So again, the left-hand side stays as is. I go to my first, outside, inside, and my last. So now I want to solve for x. Whenever you have an x squared, you want to move everything over to the left or the right hand side of the equation so it's equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I'm also going to subtract 7. So on the left hand side I'm going to have 0, and it's going to be equal to, I didn't do anything with my x squared. But now I have to combine all of my x's. So I have 5 plus 5 is 10, minus 1 would give me negative 9x, and 25 minus 7 is going to give me positive 18. Oh, excuse me, this should be a positive 9x. And now I want to factor. So when I'm looking at these two numbers, I'm looking for numbers that multiply to get 18, but add together to get 9. So multiply, but we'll add. So 18 could be 3 and 6. So I can rewrite this as 0 is equal to x plus 3, x plus 6. And if I solve each one of these for x, meaning x plus 3 has to be equal to 0, so x is going to be either equal to negative 3 or negative 6. So again, when you have two x's in your equation, you have to test them now. So for the first one, if I'm going to test negative 3, so the square root, square root of negative 3 plus 7, that whole thing minus 5 equal to negative 3. So negative 3 plus 7 would give me 4, and the square root of 4 is going to give me 2. So 2 minus 5 is going to be equal to negative 3. That's true. So I know for sure negative 3 is an answer. So now I want to check negative 6. So I have the square root of negative 6 plus 7 minus 5 equal to negative 6. So negative 6 plus 7 will give me 1. The square root of 1 is 1. So 1 minus 5, that would give me negative 4. And that does not equal negative 6, so that's false. So my only answer here would be x is equal to negative 3. Negative 6 does not work. So I want you to pause the video and attempt to do this by yourself. Again, first, isolate your radical. So if you're stuck, these are the first two steps you should do. So these will be the first two answers. Your next step would be to move everything over to one side of the equation. So I'm going to move everything over to the right side and then factor. So this is what you should have gotten your factors to be. Once you have your factors, you should solve for x and check both solutions. So you should have gotten x to equal 1 or 10, and then you check both solutions. When you put 1 back into the original, you get 5 is equal to 0, so that would be false. When you put 10 back in the equation, you get 10 is equal to 10, so that's true. So my only answer here would be x is equal to 10. And that is all for today. If this is confusing to you, please make sure that you have written down these 6 steps, because these 6 steps will help you a lot when solving these problems, especially once we get into 2x's. Make sure to write those 6 steps down. Have a great day.